So I want to talk about Paul's unbelievably revolutionary metaphor about how the church is the body of Christ. And I think people underestimate it because maybe we've heard this parable a lot before, but it's an amazing image, and it's not just an image. Hopefully, it's a lived reality. And famously, I mean, Paul's right that certain parts of the body have got kind of more glamour than others. I was thinking about this today. I got sent. I've just turned 50, so I got sent a thing from the NHS inviting me to a bowel cancer scan. And I saw this, they show you a diagram of your alimentary canal about where the bowel is and where the duodenum is. And I thought, when was the last time I prayed about my bowel or my colon or any of those bits? I thank God for a beautiful view, so I suppose that's the state of my sight, for pieces of music, and I've said come up in prayer, giving thanks for that, and ears. But, you know, the colon is a classic underrated hero, which quietly gets on with its stuff and doesn't really get the kind of attention it deserves. And Paul is about that. The people he talks about is eyes and ears and noses, and which is the most beautiful and which is the glamorous, and how everything's necessary. But crucially, there is no place for privilege in the church. And actually, you can see that, and it's not just privilege, it breaks conventional cultures of how things work. Think about leader, the word leader. There is no such word of leader in the church. You might say, well, who's the leader of the Church of England? You might say, oh, it's the Archbishop of Canterbury. Well, he's got a lot of leader-like qualities, but actually we don't use the word leader. We use the word archbishop. What's a bishop? A bishop comes from the Greek for episkopos, which means scout or overseer, the person who would you'd send ahead of your army to scout out the land. They deliberately didn't use the word leader because they knew that wasn't Christian. Other words, if you look in the New Testament for kind of big people in the church, they're called diakonoi, servants. They could have used, there are lots of Greek words for leader. There's hegemon, there's strategos. They could have used them, but they don't. They avoid it. And I think this is still kind of revolutionary in the church. If you go to church and you break the bread, one person doesn't get a bigger kind of set of bread. There is no such person who's the leader. Clergy are all basically paid the same wherever they are. This is, and think about, I don't know, the civil service. Everyone's on kind of grades, and you know, you're the permanent private secretary, you're the such and such a private secretary. In you know, YouTube influencers, there are people who've got so many millions of influence, and they kind of count higher than there are people in celebrities who get invited onto Graham Norton. Then beneath Graham Norton, they're the sort of lesser celebrities who get invited onto lesser shows. The world is kind of cascading with status and people who seem to be better. And the church just, if it is going well, just refuses to engage with that. And that's what Paul's saying. Just don't bother. You have a role, totally. You might be the hand. You might be the colon. You might be whatever. You have a role. Everyone has a role, and you can't split apart. The other big thing about this is that we have to stay together. You know, you can't just check out, and you can't let someone else check out. You can't let the colon go off and belong to another body. Yours isn't going to work. So it's this amazing image of avoiding privilege and really compelling us into a sort of shared unity of trying to stay together. And on the one hand, people have probably heard this metaphor 1,000 times. If you haven't, check out the 12th chapter of the first letter to Corinthians. But for those who have, I think again, it's amazing.